Okay, so we're going to begin by moisturizing. This is a flat paddle foundation brush from Obsessive Compulsive. You could also use a dual fiber brush just to get on a good amount of moisture onto the skin. Moisture is going to be very important with this type of makeup. I want to reintroduce that back into the skin. Start with moisturizer, and then we'll be moving to eye cream. For eye cream, I'm going to be using the Fast Response Eye Cream by MAC. You can use a flat brush. This is a flat synthetic brush by Morphe. Either that, or I also like to use a buffing brush or a blending brush that's commonly used for eyeshadow. For the moisture step, we will be doing a little bit of Bioderma, the Hydrate for the lips. And for this, I do like to use a small brush. This is the 302 by Smith. I will go further in the makeup. I will go back to this brush to apply her lipstick. Just helps to ensure that there's plenty of moisture happening. Going back to my paddle brush from Obsessive Compulsive, I'm going to do a little bit of primer in the center of the face. I am using a Smashbox primer with some color correction. For any small redness in here, you can use a primer that has a little bit of color correction in it, or you can also use just a clear primer that's going to help fill in any texture and smooth out any pores or little fine lines. Kind of like light strokes down. We want to push this kind of into the skin, not going too far up under the eye. Okay. Little patting motion, kind of back and forth. Now, in addition to primer, we are also going to be doing a little bit of skin smoother. That's kind of taking primer to the next step. For the skin smoother, this is one of our favorites here, is the MAC Prep and Prime. It's a skin smoothing balm. For this, I'm going to be using a little bit of a smaller brush, small synthetic flat brush. This one is by Morphe. And we're going to really press this into very specific areas on the face. So we'll bring some a little bit here. This is just going to act as a soft focusing product before we go and do foundation. This product can be used before or after makeup. For foundation, I'm going to be using Face and Body. We want to keep it very nice and light so that nothing settles. This is the MAC Face and Body in C2. This is a nice lightweight foundation that can actually be built by layering, but again, we don't want to go too heavy with it. So I'm going to start, this is a Real Techniques brush that's a nice like kind of angled foundation brush. So we're going to start by kind of just applying all over. And as you can see, it's very, there's a lot of moisture to it, so it's not going to look heavy. We want to stay away from too much powder or too much matte finish. So we'll start with the foundation, and I'm kind of doing a little bit of bouncing the brush so as to kind of press it into the skin. A little mixture of bouncing and then also actual pulling down as well. For this concealer, I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever Ultra HD. A beautiful finish. It's going to be very flawless. So because I'm going under the eye first, I'm using a fluffy brush. This is again the 230 eyeshadow blending brush by Smith. We're just going to pick up a little bit of concealer. Look up for me. I'm going to come from below and just kind of bounce this into her under eye. Taking my time to really press it into place here. Before we move on to setting, we're just going to make sure that we've pushed in any of the product that wants to settle and any of these lines here. And then we'll have our model continue to look up. Okay, so I'm using Ket Set. This is by Ket Cosmetics. It's a white translucent powder that we'll just tap some out onto our palette. And I'm using a medium-sized brush. This is a 118 by Smith. Nice round brush. We'll go right up under the eye. So we'll come right here. We want to be careful not to use too much powder, but we do want to find the balance so that it is set and it's not going to, our product's not going to travel. But we want to just use just as much as we need. We don't want to go overboard. So really kind of focusing it under the eye and then moving whatever's left on my brush throughout the rest of the face, not using too much. And we can always apply more at the end of the makeup. We want to maintain that moisture-full complexion. All right, now that we have the foundation set, we're going to move on to eyebrows. So we're going to begin by using just a mascara wand to brush the brows up. Our model has a nice shape to her brow. We're just going to fill in just a little bit with some powder. Powder kind of being the most natural product that we could choose. So you could use a shadow. I am going to be using the Billion Dollar Brows palette here. So it comes with your 4 major colors that you would be using pretty much on anyone. If she had like a bushier brow, we could use a little bit of the sculpting wax, but she doesn't. So we're going to be using the taupe color. I'm starting with moving upward, slowly upward into the direction of the hair. Really not trying to change the shape at all, just trying to work with what we have here. Have you turn this way a little bit for me? By filling in between the hairs. So this is one of our favorites here. This is the MAC Lay and Low paint pot. We are going to use this on the eye, but it is going to be very sparingly, maybe a little bit less than we would do normally, because we don't want it to look too heavy. So I'm just starting. This is a very small synthetic brush. This is the same brush that I used for the eye cream. Kind of all directions here, making sure that we get all little areas in here. I don't bring it all the way up to the brow bone, just really on the lid and in the crease is where we want to focus the majority of this product. So for shadow, we will be using mostly matte shadows. I'm going to be using the Morphe palette. This is all of our mattes. This is this peachy tone here. This is going to be our all over color. Again, we're using a matte finish, nothing too shimmery. And we will start by patting this in, lifting the eye, and just patting this in kind of in all directions, making sure that we have full coverage from all sides, mainly on the lid, and then pulling up into the crease a bit. Next, we will be doing probably a shade about maybe 2 or 3 shades darker, still staying in that warm family here. And this is a little bit more of a blending brush. This is by Obsessive Compulsive. We'll pull a little bit of this color. Turn this way. So I'm going to focus this right in here. It's a little bit more of a padding. We don't want to pull back and forth because this is what will happen. So we want to really kind of focus this color by patting it, even though we're using a blending brush. Once we have the coverage on, then we can kind of slowly move the product so it's nice and blended. We'll take a look. Perfect. I'm going to be using for the last third color, just a slight bit darker than that crease color. I'm going to be using this very small, it's a 253 by Smith. You could use this or even something even smaller. We want something that's just going to place color, not necessarily blend it much, but just kind of place it in the corner. So this is a perfect size for that. For this, we are going to be using Gorgeous Cosmetics. This is like a nice kind of really kind of camely warm brown for that corner. Again, like I said, nothing too dark because we are going to do liner as well. So I'm going to have you look down. I'm going to flip my brush upside down so that I get the majority of the color near the lash line. Let's see. And then I'll actually go back to my blending brush and just soften that right towards the inner part of the eye. For liner, I'm going to be using a Stylus smudge stick. This is an espresso. It's like a nice kind of medium brown. You don't want to go too dark. Again, it's kind of like the brows. We don't want to go too harsh with the color. So we're going to sanitize this. Have you look down? I'm going to start by lifting the eye and just working this color as close to the lash line as possible. I'm not too worried about getting a perfect line because I'm going to go back in with a brush and smooth everything out. I just want to kind of get the color on. Done. So I'm just going to work in this color in the lash line. And before it sets, I will take the brush, angle brush here, this similar one to the ones I put the brows on with. Look down, no product on it, just going in and kind of dragging this color kind of to soften and diffuse the line. Nothing too harsh. Turn this way for me. We'll have a look. Perfect. We're just getting a little definition. Look over this way. And we're going to want to add a little bit more into the corner because of how her eye is sitting when she opens. We'll bring this up a bit. Let's see, look forward, look down. So we're kind of compensating a bit for how her eye kind of looks when it's open as opposed to how it looks when it's closed. So we're bringing up the inner corner just a tad. And then also, to go ahead and set the liner, I'm going to take that darkest most color here. I'm going to take this color here and just go right over the liner just to, again, diffuse it even more. So moving from the corner to the center and then from that side into the center. And then the finishing touches for the eyes would be the mascara. So we're going to begin by curling her lashes first. We'll have her look down. Then I will be using Hot and Naughty Mascara by MAC. This is a brown. Just going to give a little bit of a nice warm effect to the eye makeup. Black sometimes can be a little bit harsh with this color. So I'm going to do a nice warm brown going with our hair. And we're going to just kind of wiggle it through here. So we've finished the eyes. We have a nice warm brown mascara. Now we're going to move on to cheeks. I am going to be using a powder blush on her. Since we set her with a nice powder, we're going to be going with kind of a nice kind of terracotta color here. This is a smaller brush. This is a 112 by Smith. I like a brush that's a little bit smaller kind of on anyone that I'm doing makeup for. It just helps to control the color. So we can start by having her smile. And then we will kind of pop a little bit of color on the apples of the cheeks. It's kind of a little bit of a counterclockwise motion, and then I'll be doing a clockwise motion on the other side, so it kind of gets it right on that largest part of the apple of the cheek. So we'll go back this way. And by placing it right here, it gives a very nice youthful, fresh appearance. So now we've arrived at lips. I'm going to start by removing the lip balm that we've placed on earlier. Should be nice and moisturized, but we don't want any excess moisture, especially for the lips. The lips that color tends to move if we don't prime them correctly. So now that I have removed the lip balm, I'm going to be applying a lip primer. This one is by NYX. And this is going to be applied right at the base of the lip here. right at the lip line, a little bit over even. It's very like waxy consistency, so it helps to kind of create a barrier so that we don't get any traveling of the lip color. So kind of right in here. And then we'll give it a second to kind of set. And then we'll jump into lip liner. In terms of colors for lip liners, we want to be using something nice and like a medium kind of pink. This is a color by Gorgeous Cosmetics again. This is called Barely There. It's just a very kind of warm, pinky, while still being kind of corally, which is the rest of her makeup, just to give it very natural tone. So we'll sharpen this. And then we'll begin at the Cupid's bow here, just giving a little definition from below. You'll see I'm anchored on her. Get a little. Giving some definition in here. And then we'll move to the bottom. You want to kind of shade in the lip line. We don't want to just have just one, sharp line. We want to kind of shade in at the corners and use the side of the pencil to really almost create a little bit of a layering technique for when we apply the lipstick. All right, now we'll be using Inglot. This is a great palette here. We're going to be using something like this over here, just really coordinating with the colors that we've already chosen. Again, very medium pink, something that's going to be close to her natural color. Be going back to, like I said earlier, I'm going to be going back to the brush that I used for her lip balm and working from here. We'll start at the center of her lip. We don't want to go overboard with the amount of product, just enough to give some color. The more product we have, the more kind of option it has to move around, which we want to stay away from. We want to really probably stay away from gloss because gloss will intensify the movement. Anytime you add more and more moisture, we want to stay kind of in a satin kind of finish of lipstick, not too matte and but not glossy either. So now we will finish up by just kind of checking everything that we've done so far, making sure, look up for me, making sure nothing has kind of moved, kind of patting out any collection of product. The eyes and around the mouth are really usually the places that you want to go and take a second look at, just to make sure that they're nice and smooth. All right, and then we'll do a little bit of just one more time around with our powder, and then we'll do a little bit of setting spray, just to ensure that we keep everything in place. What I'm going to be using is the NYX Matte Finish. This is just a nice kind of lightweight setting spray that's going to help give it a matte finish without being too sticky. So we're going to start over here, close for me. We're going to let it kind of settle in, and then if we see any areas that we want to just kind of press in that moisture, go back with our foundation brush. Okay. So we're going to take out her bobby pins. And there we have it.